The night train station looked almost abandoned. Cold wind moved through the empty platforms as the clock struck midnight. A young man named Arman stood alone under a flickering light waiting for the last train to the city. The train was already 3 hours late, but he was too tired to leave. He had spent the entire day traveling and just wanted to reach home. The benches around him were empty, and the distant sound of metal creaking echoed in the silence. As he looked around, he noticed an old man sitting near the staircase. The old man slowly lifted his head and stared directly at him. The man's eyes looked strangely hollow. After a few seconds, he walked toward Arman and stopped right in front of him. In a rough whisper, he said, "If the train arrives tonight, don't talk to anyone inside." Before Arman could ask anything, the man quietly walked away into the darkness. Arman felt uneasy after hearing those words. He tried to ignore the strange warning and looked at his phone to pass the time. A few minutes later, the loud horn of a train echoed through the station. The long black train slowly entered the platform. Strangely, no one else seemed to board it. Arman quickly grabbed his bag and ran toward the last coach before the train started moving again. As he stepped inside, the train doors slammed shut behind him. The platform disappeared into the darkness. Inside the compartment, everything was silent. The lights flickered weakly, and every seat was empty. Arman sat near the window and tried to relax as the cold night air rushed inside. But after a few seconds, he heard something strange. Someone was breathing heavily somewhere nearby. The sound was slow and deep, like someone struggling to breathe. Arman quickly looked around the compartment, but there was no one there. His heart started beating faster. He stood up and slowly walked through the coach, checking every corner. At the far end of the compartment, he suddenly saw a man sitting near the door. The man was staring straight at him with a faint smile. Relieved to finally see another passenger, Arman sat on the seat across from him, but the man didn't say anything. He just kept staring silently. His eyes looked empty, almost lifeless. The train continued running through endless darkness. After nearly 20 minutes, Arman noticed something strange. The train hadn't stopped at a single station. It was as if it was traveling through a place where no stations existed. Finally, the man spoke. His voice was calm but strangely cold. "You're wondering why the train hasn't stopped yet." Arman froze because that was exactly what he had been thinking. "How did you know that?" Arman asked nervously. The man slowly leaned forward. "Because this train never stops." Arman laughed nervously, thinking it was some kind of joke. But when he looked closer, his smile disappeared. Blood was slowly dripping from the man's forehead. The side of his skull looked crushed, as if it had been smashed. Terrified, Arman jumped from his seat. The man's body looked broken and twisted, yet he was still sitting there calmly, as if nothing was wrong. "You see me like this because this is how I died," the man said quietly. Arman felt his legs shaking. The man continued speaking without any emotion. 20 years ago, I boarded this train late at night," he said. "Some drunk men started fighting with me and threw me off the moving train." His voice grew colder. "My head struck an electric pole, and I fell onto the tracks." He paused for a moment. "Before I could move, another train passed over my body." Arman felt like the air had disappeared from the compartment. His mind refused to believe what he was hearing. "That's impossible," he whispered. "You wouldn't be here if that happened." The man slowly smiled again. "Who said I'm alive?" he replied. Suddenly the train lights started flickering violently. The man's face began changing back into the terrifying broken form. Blood started dripping onto the floor. Arman ran toward the emergency chain and pulled it hard. Instead of slowing down, the train suddenly sped up even faster. The force threw him onto the floor. When he looked up, the ghost was standing right in front of him. Its eyes were completely black now. Blood was running down its face like a river. "Please, leave me alone," Arman begged desperately. "I never did anything to you." The ghost stared at him for a long moment. Then it slowly stepped back. "I don't want to harm you," it said. "I only want freedom." Arman looked confused. "Freedom from what?" he asked. The ghost pointed around the empty train. "From this endless journey," it said quietly. "This train has been running since the night I died." Arman felt cold fear spreading through his chest. The ghost continued speaking slowly. "Every time the train appears, one passenger boards it." Its voice echoed strangely through the compartment. "That passenger becomes the next soul trapped here?" Arman's heart almost stopped. "You mean me?" The ghost nodded slowly. "But you can free me," it said. "How?" Arman asked with trembling lips. The ghost stepped closer and looked directly into his eyes. "Take my place," it whispered. "If you stay here, I can finally leave." The train suddenly slowed down. The doors of the compartment slowly opened on their own. Outside there was nothing but endless darkness. Arman knew he had no escape. Fear slowly faded from his mind and turned into silence. After a long moment, he finally spoke. "All right, I'll do it." The moment he said those words, the ghost smiled peacefully. Minutes later, the train finally stopped at a quiet station. The doors opened and a new passenger stepped inside. The young man looked around nervously and sat down across from Arman. Arman slowly lifted his head and stared at him, and for the first time, he smiled.